Hello, my name is Karin Tobiason, and welcome to Firefly Readings with Karin. On this channel, what I'd like to do is just answer any of your questions. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will get to them as best that I can. So why don't we get started right away? Um, I have a list of questions that I've jotted down here. Hey, let's go big. So, a beautiful being asked, why am I afraid of death? What happens when we die? Whew, I love this question. It's so big, it's so wide. And where I'm going to start with this one is many of us feel afraid of death because when we came onto this planet, we related to being only our physical self. We were just our kind of like a meat puppet. We were our physical being. I refer to it as the slave that our journey on this planet when most of us got here were to work as hard as we could. We were to push that rock right up the hill, just like Sisyphus. And we all know the story of Sisyphus, that, the next day when you came back to your work, the rock had come down to the bottom. And so I bring up this story that we learn to identify only with our bodies, with our physical bodies. We learn to only identify with many of us, with our intellect, with our analytical ability, our brains. And that many of us were kind of steered away from paying much attention to our emotional system, to our heart system, and this beautiful, beautiful spiritual system. This idea that we are just light source, we are just beautiful, beautiful light source of peace and unconditional love. So many people who are afraid of death, they're afraid of dying. They feel like that's going to be the end. They feel like their body is going to die and then that is it. And how do I unpack this? And what my guides are saying to remind you that once we recognize ourselves as these beautiful, beautiful light beings, we identify ourselves as our higher self, as our spirit, as however you actually, our energy. It is that wonderful stuff, that our creative abilities. Once we identify as our God selves, our God creator selves, our higher selves, then what we are more aware of is that in truth is our true essence. It's all just light and energy and love. Getting to the other side of fearing death for many of us is about recognizing who we are as light beings, recognizing how we create, recognizing how we change the world with our thoughts, with our words, with our emotions, with our heart blossoming, how we just move the energies around and that we can create miracles at any time. And so with that, there isn't quite the attachment to the body that many of us may have been taught that we were to be a part of. So there's a part of that it's completely done. Some people are afraid of death because they have a misconception of heaven and hell. In my experience of taking a tour, there is no hell. It is just a lower frequency of energy. It is loving, it's accepting, it's just a lower frequency of heaven. And so what I see when people step over and go to heaven, and I'm just using heaven, because everybody knows what I speak of when I just call it heaven. I don't know what else to call it. What heaven is, according to my experience, thousands and thousands of layers of different colors and frequencies and tones, and just magic that go thousands and thousands and thousands. And each one is just is an upgrade. Each one is where you step over, you meet with your loved ones, you celebrate a beautiful life. And I'm just going to simplify it and say, then what happens is you sit down with your council of light. These are your life purpose. These are the people that are looking at your life and what you've achieved and all these beautiful things that you've been able to do. They look at the growth of your soul, and every time you've left another person in a better place than you found them, any time that you have chosen love rather than fear, as those are the only two energies that we have, that you are celebrated, that you have advanced and grown your soul. Nobody on that life, when they're talking about your life, nobody judges you. We are the only ones that judge ourselves. And so that is one way to just kind of describe it. And we kind of find our frequency, we celebrate, we look at things that we want to learn. We then decide where we're going to go next. And then we rendezvous our whole soul group together, our whole soul family. And we make all of our agreements as to who's going to be who in the zoo for us. So many people are afraid. They're afraid of dying. Either they're going to just lose their body and just plunk, they're not going to exist any longer. Or many are afraid of going to hell. Many are afraid because it's a little watery as far as who who's going to get in and who's not going to get in. I've had people talk to me that they're afraid that they're not going to get in because they just are judging themselves. They're choosing the fear instead of the love. And they're afraid of that their loved ones may not have gotten back in, that their loved ones had, weren't, didn't have a really beautiful Christian life, and maybe they aren't there. So they're afraid that they're going to get there, and the people that they love aren't around. That's not the case at all. So, your greatest gift that you can give yourself on this planet at this time is releasing your fear of death. And I like to describe it as you've already determined with your team your exit and your exit strategy, and how all of that is going to kind of come into being. Everything is planned out to serve you in the highest and best. And so my greatest advice to you is get as comfortable as possible with the idea of death. You don't die at all. You are this like incredible magical energy source of just love and just unique talents and unique fingerprints. You've got a blueprint that you come back over and over and over to expand and expand and expand and become even greater as a soul. And if you look at your body as just the beautiful vehicle that is going to usher you around the planet, and that your only job is to take care of it. Your only job is to take as good a care of it as possible. When your body's tired, take a nap. Just take care of it. Just take care of it. And the greatest way to take care of it is love it unconditionally, no matter what. And then when you're ready to leave, you already have the agreed exit point. And it's going to be perfect. And the what I've always kind of been shown when somebody has stepped over is that, that your beautiful, beautiful energy kind of lifts, becomes one with all, communes with God, all there is. And then you kind of just do a drive-by and drop off your body. And you go up and you go up into heaven. You meet your loved ones, you celebrate a life beautifully, beautifully lived. And so my greatest advice for you would be to find that comfort, no matter what it is, with the idea of dying. You'll never die. Your soul was born years and years and years and years and years and years ago. It will never die. It just continues to expand. It continues to learn to love a little bit more and not fear as much. I hope that helps. Thank you. So another question that I have in is, I've been told that when we first get on our spiritual paths and or are kind of a newbie in learning this whole spiritual stuff, that because we're so new at it, that we attract dark forces to come in to terrorize us. And is this true? And I'm waiting for them to sort it out. But they're saying they want, that it's not necessarily true, but many of us have had that experience when we first got onto our spiritual path. And really what the lesson with the dark forces coming in is, they want you to look at that as a gift to train you to assert your will, to use your free will, to create boundaries, and know that you're not here by yourself with just these spooky wookies coming in, but you have a whole spiritual team. You have a whole team of ascended masters, of archangels, of the gods, the goddesses, all of, the energies of the human condition, Jesus, Mother Mary, Buddha, so many. And you have access to all of them, including your spiritual team that came in with you, others that came in to join you and help you grow into this, beautiful, expansive being. So you all have free will, and all you need to do is ask. Just ask that you are protected from the dark energies coming in. This is not acceptable. Please protect me. Send them away. That is one way to do it. But it is a beautiful lesson as how you can assert your will to create your world and create your experiences. They will take the directives. Once you have been on your path, and you are aware of your ability to say no to whatever, you know that you have the ability to move, I'm going to say, the molecules to create the life that you want. What my guides always recommend is that the spiritual law, number one, according to me, is everything sent back to the light must go, and it must go. So when the dark forces come in, you don't need to identify, you don't need to know the who, when, where, what, how, it doesn't matter. If it is of importance, you will know after the fact, but I always recommend everybody like, it'll come in. You'll feel it kind of touch in with your auric field, on the edge of your auric field. You might feel it come right into your physical body or just kind of get into, I'm just going to say your auric field again. And if you do not like what it feels like, if you do not like, if you feel afraid, if you feel like you are being bullied by energy, all you need to do is command that it go back to the light, to be transmuted back into love and light now. So go ahead and just send it out. Take a deep breath. The reason that you feel fear is you have quit breathing. So just keep breathing. Just know to take a deep breath in. Send it out to the light. Know that it must go. That is spiritual law. And then if it was terrorizing, I always ask people, just go take a nap and ask your team to just protect you. And that's it. So it is not being a newbie. It is just learning your own power. It is learning your own uh, um, power, spiritual power. Whatever you don't like, send it back to the light. So thank you for that question. So I have another beautiful being who says, I've struggled with money my whole life. Why is this? Why can I not break through? And is this just my fate? Is this just my bad karma? Was I a bad person in a past life? And thank you for that question. Hmm. If you're struggling with money in this life, which many of us are, it oftentimes means that um, it is one of the lessons that we have to learn. And the lesson being is that all money is a higher frequency. And so many of us, we kind of landed on this planet and we were taught, you have to pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. I hate that. That's so wrong. You have to work hard. You need to work harder than everybody else. You need to, and then, the dollars will come in as a reward. And it doesn't quite work like that. So the way that money actually works, if you think of it as a an energy of bliss. You think of it as an energy of happiness, of bliss, of unconditional self-love. What happens is your only job to bring more dollars in is to know that the more joyful you are, the more is going to flow in. The more joyful you are, the more is going to flow in. And so a lot of this lesson has to do with letting go of the old paradigm, the slave paradigm, that you have to work harder than anybody else and work longer than anybody else to have, anything. And that's not true. It's not how money works. So what they're saying is that money comes in from joy. And if you want to bring more money in, do what you love to do. And even if you just start with just starting a small project, just starting something that you love to do. My guides are telling me to tell my quick story. Um, we went when we went into my past. I've built companies. I've built a number of them. Many have failed. A couple have been very successful. But I misinterpreted that I loved something that I was good at. And I was collecting data. I was very interested. I wanted to know how things were built. I wanted to know how structures were built, how money was made. I wanted to understand this whole thing. But I was doing things that I was just good at, not that I loved. So I had just built a company, and overnight it became obsolete. And my guides came in and said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to begin, this is right before quarantine. So I haven't been doing this that long. We want you to find a social media um, channel. We don't care which one. And what we want you to do is go on and offer two free readings a day until we're out of quarantine. And I remember feeling kind of like, well, that's kind of weird, but I've always known I was psychic. I've always been very psychic. Just didn't feel comfortable with identifying as that. And so I don't know why I rarely say yes to my guides, but I did say yes. And I remember at the time, the news channels were saying, buckle up, buckle in. We're going to be in quarantine for 30 days. And I remember saying to my team, it's like, okay, I can do this. I'll go ahead and do this. And then at the end of 30 days, I'll figure out my third act. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. But for right now, and my guides were saying, this is so important. There are so many kids. Everybody's a kid to me because I'm old. But there's so many kids that feel hopeless and they're scared to death, and they're going through just huge traumas, and this is going to be able to really help them. So I went onto Reddit and started offering two free readings a day for 7 days. And it turned into sometimes 3 to 4 readings, free readings a day. And what I really learned while I was doing it is I loved what I did. I loved that I was good at it. I loved that I felt like I was in service. I loved that I know that I was able to help many, many beautiful, beautiful little beings who were really in the dark night of their soul. And what I realized is that what I had done before, as far as building businesses, was not what I loved to do. I was just good at it. And it also was something I was collecting data with, learning how to do it for whatever reason. And I remember right about the 30-day point, I had 3 major miracles come in. And those 3 miracles came in all around the 30-day point, and all 3 of them have launched me out into the world. I was able to, just because I was doing what I loved, and I'm just playing with it. I didn't expect to continue doing it, but here I am. So the big key for me was I believed, because I was a good slave, that I had to work harder than everybody else. That's not how it worked. The minute I hit a joy, the minute that I hit that beautiful bliss and joy, is when the dollars just magically came in, magically came in. They want me to also talk about, for anybody that is kind of looking at, I know I'm supposed to do something really big. I'm afraid, of whatever. How am I going to make money with this? And what your teams want you to know Is it even if you just wake up and plan on spending 1 hour in the morning before you do anything else doing what you love, you will create that energy to bring in all of the opportunities, the miracles, and the dollars. And I know this sounds really woo-woo. It sounds like, well, that can't actually work. You don't understand. But it does. And for those of you denying that it can't possibly work, my guides recommend that you go back, turn around and kind of look at your life. And they want you to look at the one life at one time in this life, one time in this life that you were on top of the world. You had hit every goal. You loved what you did. And they want you to not look at everything, all the pieces that were put together. They don't want you to look at anything except your emotional state when you were on top of the world and money was flowing and love was flowing in and opportunities and excitement. And then what they'd like you to do, and just hold that wonderful feeling. And then if you dare, you're safe. They want you to they want you to visit, this is looking back, at one of the worst times in your life, when you just felt like your whole life was over, when you felt like whatever it was, when you had created, a physical challenge in your body, when you were looking at not knowing where you were going to go or where the next dollar was coming in, or just the worst. And they want you to just do one quick little glimpse at your emotional state that actually created that. And all you are doing, if you are trying to attract dollars today, is go ahead and feel into where you're at. And they want you to know that your job and your only job is to baby step up the emotional, just the emotional, I don't know how to say that. You cannot go from hopeless to bliss. You have to go from hopeless maybe to angry, and then go take the next step, anger to exhaustion, and then take exhaustion maybe up to a little bit of peace, and then another little step up, but you just keep stepping up that emotion. And that is your job until you raise the emotion so that you can attract in the energy of what you are looking. I hope that helped. Thank you.